64% of Fortune 500 executives admit they make major strategic decisions using intuition rather than data. And yet the companies that outperform their peers by 3 to 1 use a documented decision framework that removes guesswork entirely. The difference isn't intelligence. It's process. Every day, leaders sit in rooms where the stakes are enormous. A wrong call on market entry costs millions. A delayed decision on AI adoption puts you 2 years behind competitors. A hiring mistake at the executive level can destabilize an entire organization. And the pressure is relentless. According to recent research from the World Economic Forum in 2026, 72% of C-suite leaders report that decision fatigue is their single biggest operational constraint. Not competition. Not market volatility. Decision fatigue. The problem is this. Most leaders have never been formally trained in how to make decisions under uncertainty. You rose because you were smart, driven, and politically savvy. Nobody taught you a repeatable system. So when stakes spike, you fall back on pattern matching, gut feel, and what worked last time. In 2025, that's not good enough anymore. The environment is moving too fast, the variables are too interdependent. Your instinct will fail you. In the next 8 minutes, we're going to walk you through the exact framework that exceptional leaders use when it matters. Most this isn't theoretical. This is the system used by CEOs at firms like Stripe, Shopify, and regional powerhouses across Singapore and the Asia Pacific who consistently make decisions that compound. You'll learn 3 decision principles. How to collapse complexity into clarity. How to stress test your assumptions before they cost you. And how to move with speed without sacrificing precision. By the end, you'll have a repeatable system you can deploy in your next board meeting, your next M&A evaluation, your next major hire. Principle 1. Disaggregate the decision. Separate the essential variables from the noise. Most leaders treat decisions as monolithic. They ask, should we enter the Indian market? Should we build or buy this capability? Should we restructure the team? These questions are too big. Your brain tries to process everything at once and defaults to emotion or consensus. Exceptional leaders do something different. They break the decision into its component parts. Research from McKinsey in 2026 shows that leaders who disaggregate decisions into 5 to 7 core variables are 43% more likely to achieve their intended outcomes in complex strategic moves. Here's a real example. In 2025, a multinational software company with significant operations in Singapore faced a decision. Should they consolidate their R&D centers across 3 countries into one regional hub? Or maintain distributed teams? That question, as asked, is unanswerable. Too many variables bundled together. The exceptional CFO on that executive team disaggregated it like this. Variable 1. Cost structure impact. Variable 2. Talent retention risk. Variable 3. Speed to market in APAC markets. Variable 4. Regulatory and immigration complexity in target countries. Variable 5. Innovation output per engineering dollar. Now you have clarity. You can evaluate each variable independently. Cost structure. Consolidation wins by 20%. Talent retention. Distributed wins. Speed to market in APAC. Mixed. Depends on which hub. When you disaggregate, you can see where the real debate lives. You can weight variables by strategic importance. And you can move forward without pretending certainty exists where it doesn't. Application. In your next strategic decision, write down the question. Then force yourself to identify the 5 to 7 core variables that actually matter. Not everything. The vital few. You'll be shocked at how much clarity emerges. Principle 2. Assume your baseline is wrong. Stress test relentlessly before commitment. We tend to treat our initial analysis as the starting point. We run the numbers once. We talk to a few smart people. We form a view. Then we spend the rest of the process defending that view rather than challenging it. Exceptional leaders flip this. They assume their baseline is incomplete or wrong. They stress test assumptions the way an engineer stress tests a structure before it goes live. According to Deloitte's 2026 Leadership Survey, organizations that implement formal assumption stress testing in strategic decisions reduce decision-related failures by 38%. That's not marginal improvement. That's transformative. In 2025, a major telecommunications company in India was evaluating a $5 billion investment in 5G infrastructure across rural markets. Their baseline assumption was straightforward. Rural adoption will follow urban adoption with an 18-month lag, and profitability will emerge by year 4. But one leader on the investment committee pushed back. What if adoption is slower? What if regulatory changes shift pricing power? What if competitors subsidize infrastructure to capture market share? Instead of accepting the baseline, they ran 20 scenarios. In 16 of them, year 4 profitability didn't materialize. The baseline was dangerously optimistic. This sounds obvious in hindsight. It wasn't at the time. The team had done serious work, but they hadn't interrogated their own assumptions. When they did, the decision changed. They scaled the investment down by 40% and phased it differently. That assumed pessimism saved them from a major capital allocation error. Application. Take your next major decision. Identify your 3 most critical assumptions. Now deliberately try to prove each one wrong. What would have to happen for this assumption to fail? How likely is that scenario? If your answer is anything other than extremely unlikely, your baseline needs to shift. Principle 3. Establish decision velocity without sacrificing precision. Speed has value. Perfection doesn't. Most organizations live at one extreme or the other. Either they move glacially, obsessing over every variable and never committing, or they move recklessly, deciding fast but reversing course constantly. Exceptional leaders find the center. They understand that in most decisions, you have a window where the data is good enough and the cost of delay exceeds the cost of imperfection. They commit at that point. They don't wait for certainty. Certainty doesn't exist. Recent research from Gartner in 2026 found that leaders who establish clear decision deadlines accelerate strategic outcomes by an average of 4 to 6 months without increasing failure rates. The mechanism is simple. Urgency focuses thinking. A Singapore-based fintech CEO faced a decision in early 2025 that exemplifies this perfectly. Should they pivot their product roadmap to serve institutional clients instead of retail? The retail market was crowded. Institutional was less competitive but required different technology and sales infrastructure. The baseline instinct was to commission a 6-month study. Get perfect clarity. But the CEO understood something important. Market timing mattered more than perfect analysis. If institutions were moving toward their solution, waiting 6 months meant losing first-mover advantage. She set a decision deadline. 3 weeks. In those 3 weeks, she tasked her team with validating 3 things only. First, do institutional clients actually want this? Second, can we build it faster than competitors could respond? Third, Do we have access to talent to execute? Not perfect validation. Good enough validation on the things that mattered most. 21 days later, she decided. 18 months later, institutional clients represented 32% of revenue. The speed of decision compounded into a sustainable competitive advantage. Application. On your next major decision, identify the decision deadline that makes sense given market conditions and strategic stakes. Then identify the minimum data you need by that date to decide responsibly. Not comprehensively. Responsibly. That distinction changes everything. Imagine this. 6 months from now, you're sitting in a boardroom. A major strategic decision lands on the table. Normally, this is where confusion takes over. Where politics enter. Where you default to whoever talks loudest. This time is different. You disaggregate the decision calmly. You identify the 5 variables that actually matter. You stress test assumptions. You push back on optimism. You establish a decision timeline. Your team doesn't see chaos. They see clarity. And here's what changes. Your organization starts moving faster than competitors. Not recklessly. With precision. Decisions get reversed less often because they're rooted in reality rather than hope. Talent wants to work for you because working under clear decision-making feels dramatically different from working under ambiguity. Within a year, this becomes your competitive advantage. Not market access. Not product. Your ability to see clearly and move decisively in conditions where everyone else is still debating. That's what separates exceptional leaders from everyone else. And it all starts with a framework that you can teach, implement, and repeat. The framework we just walked you through works across any domain. Hiring decisions. Thanks for listening. If you found this valuable, please subscribe to Apex Minds D4J for more powerful insights. See you in the next one.